Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Engineers Ireland. We're very privileged to have a speaker from New Zealand travel over from the UK on his time off this evening to give us a presentation on the developments in transport infrastructure in Auckland. Just a short bio on Andrew. This is Andrew Hale. He's an associate at Aurocon in New Zealand, and he currently leads the transport project management team. He's originally from the UK, and he's a graduate of civil engineering from Liverpool University in 1999. He's a chartered engineer with the Institution of Civil Engineers and a project management professional. Again, since moving to New Zealand in 2006, Andrew has played a critical role in supporting delivery of Auckland's infrastructure, including projects such as the Western Ring Road, the Southern Motorway and the City Rail Link, which we'll go into in detail further. Just a little bit on tonight's lecture. Much the same as Dublin, Auckland has suffered historically from underinvestment in transport infrastructure, and has been this is overburdened and has led to inefficiencies. Its population is on a par with Dublin. Again, it's about 1.5 million, and it's due to rise by 2043 to about 2.2 million. So essentially, Andrew has worked with the New Zealand Transport Agency, the NZTA, and the Auckland Transport Authority to implement a number of the projects which we'll talk about. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight and to introduce Andrew to give the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver. How are you guys going? I thought it was going to be a bigger audience, so it's quite a small audience. But just probably to start off, and I didn't travel across just to give this presentation. So Ali, who sat in the small audience, I used to work with Ali back in New Zealand. I think Ali left in 2013, 14. So I'm across to be the best man for my brother in the UK this Saturday. So came across to visit Ali, and we've had a bit of a whirlwind tour around Ireland. I've kissed the Blarney Stone, I've done the Ring of Kerry, and just recently been to the Guinness factory. So apologies if I'm a bit slurred. Thank you for the introduction, Oliver. And I think what I'm going to present today is going to be a bit of a whirlwind, because I worked with Ali on the Western Ring Route in Auckland, and Ali said, I'll do a presentation on the Western Ring Route. I thought, well, I could do, but there's a lot of things that have happened in Auckland and is happening in Auckland. I thought I'd give a sort of perspective of what's happening in Auckland in general, and then I'll go into detail on some of the projects that are currently being constructed or just beginning to be constructed. Some of them are multi-billion-dollar projects, two in particular, 2 tunnel jobs. So I'll just give a brief introduction to myself. As Oliver said, graduated from Liverpool University in civil engineering. I was actually in the UK a bridge engineer. So I designed, inspected, maintained bridges for approximately 7 years. Those 3 companies there, Mushalamy, Atkins and Carlborough. Atkins is probably the one that you guys would probably know. Mushalamy joint venture was an organisation in the Lake District, looking after the bridges on the M6. And after 7 years in the UK, I thought I'd go and see what's happening abroad, and I was only supposed to be there for 2.5 years. 10 years later, I'm still there. Whilst I was in New Zealand, I became chartered with the Institute of Civil Engineers, and recently, late last year, I actually became a PMP with the Project Management Institute in the US. And I also, at a similar time, became a New Zealand citizen, so I'm actually a Kiwi now. And I've been leading the transport project management team in our Auckland office for approximately 2 years. So since 2006, so when I joined Aurecon, in the transport team we only had around about 25 people. Now we roughly have around about 110, 120 people in that transport team. And it's mainly down to the project I'm just about to show you. So Aurecon, you probably haven't heard of Aurecon. No, nobody heard of Aurecon? No, they're not in Europe. They're mainly in Australia, so that's where they have the biggest presence. But so it was previously called Conor Wagner. It merged with 2 South African companies. So they have a presence now in South Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, but mainly in Australia. Currently around about 7,000 employees. It's privately owned, so 900 shareholders, which I'm one. I'm an owner. And some of the big projects there, Wembley Stadium, so when they were called Conor Wagner, they paired up with Mott MacDonald to design Wembley Stadium. Probably haven't heard of it. It was made with Melbourne Cricket Ground, Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, Eden Park Stadium in Auckland. And this is a quite a big project. You may have heard of it. The tower. It's going to be the tallest structure in the world, I believe, and it's going to be built by when the Dubai World Expo is planned. I think which is in 2020 or 2022. So they've recently won that with Santiago Calatrava. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we've just only recently got that. Next one. So just a little about New Zealand. Probably all know where it is, in the middle of nowhere. So it takes around about 3 hours to fly from the eastern coast, so from Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne over to New Zealand. It pretty much is in the middle of nowhere. It's a long way away from anywhere really. It takes a long time to get back to Europe. And most notably, they have a really good rugby team, which you probably all know. Population at the moment in New Zealand is around about 4.5 million. And Auckland takes up probably a third of that population, and it's similar to Ireland. Very similar to Ireland, with Dublin, and it's around about a third of the population lives in the main city. Auckland isn't the capital, so Wellington's the capital. Anyone been to Auckland? I know that Oliver has. No one been to Auckland? Would you say it's a beautiful city? Yeah. Nice coastal city. 53 volcanoes. So some very interesting geology, which we'll maybe pick up within the tunnelling projects that I've worked on. Highly multicultural and a diverse population. Yeah, and as you can see, my wife is Sri Lankan. I'm English. It's really a country and a city with it's not got a long history. It's probably only the city's probably only 150 years old. I was actually saying to Ali and my wife in the Guinness tour that the actual Guinness was made before New Zealand was actually cited by Captain Cook. She said don't mention that, by the way. It's got 2 natural harbours, quite big harbours. The projects that I'm probably going to touch upon, they do sort of those projects do dissect those harbours. Got beautiful beaches, so you see sort of one of the volcanoes there, which is Mount Eden, looking into the CBD. So Auckland's problem. I thought, right, if you've got these numerous projects, well, what are you trying to do? What problem are you trying to solve? But as I've said, there's historic underinvestment in transport infrastructure. And I don't think it's just that. I think it was also I think they've just made the wrong decisions. So at certain points in time, they've had to either say, oh, shall we invest in rail or shall we invest in road? And they've invested in roads instead of rail. And I think that sort of historic wrong decisions are now starting to affect where the city's going. Trying to rectify that now. Pretty much like Dublin, I've just been sat in traffic trying to get here. It's not pleasant. But the other thing is it's actually growing quite considerably, as you can see by those projections there. So if you put that into New Zealand terms, over the next 20 years, we're going to be getting a capital city twice. So every 10 years, we're going to get a Wellington, and then another Wellington in another 10 years. So there's not enough that they haven't invested, and they've invested wrong, and then we've got this population growth, which is absolutely huge. We've got a lot of immigrants coming into the country, and they all want to live in Auckland because Auckland's so nice and all the jobs are there. So what's actually happened, they're all coming in and they're not actually building up, they're building out. So you can I've shown sort of the density, population, so people per square kilometre, and you can sort of see the difference. It's very spread out. and people are just building on the edges and they're continually building. So when you're building on the edges, you continually need to keep on investing more and more infrastructure. Now, what that's actually doing is, you've got all these people and they sort of want to buy new houses on the outside. You're getting a lot of, there's too many people, there's not enough houses, and the house prices are going absolutely astronomical. And it's creating a big problem. But they've tried to solve it by bringing in this thing called the Auckland Plan. So, and as part of this Auckland Plan, they want to become the world's most livable city. So they have these sort of these rankings. I think one's Mercer and the other one's the Economist Intelligence Unit. So what they're trying to do is become number one, and what's actually happened is when they assess infrastructure in Auckland, it actually brings it down a peg or two in the ranking. So at the moment I think we're third with Mercer and ninth with the Economist Intelligence Unit. But the Auckland Plan, so this is a new plan that the council, the newly formed council's come up with, is they want to become the world's most livable city, and they're going to invest in infrastructure as part of that. So you sort of see down there. So just I'll flick. I've got a few videos, and they're not that long. This one's probably one of the longest. This will give you a bit of a snapshot of the problem that's happening in Auckland, and probably how they're going to solve it. I'll just.
Show you something. I'm starting here in Pukekohe because there's already a lot going on. There are new suburbs, schools, shops, roads in, roads out, which is great if you're looking for a more affordable home. But chances are you'll be working north, and that means you'll want to drive, but so does everyone else, feeding even more cars into Auckland. How many more? Well, look at it this way. Every year more people call Auckland home. Over the last 3 years, we've grown by over 93,000 people. That's a new Aucklander about every 20 minutes. If we continue at this rate, our population will reach 2 million by 2030. Which of course will mean more roads. A motorway lane transports less than 2,500 people per hour. A rail line can move up to 10 times that many. That's why we're working hard on our network now. Our new trains are already helping to ease congestion, making life easier for commuters and leaving more room on the roads for business. But we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. We're improving bus services with better bus lanes, more frequency and bigger buses, even double-deckers. And we're already making it easier for buses, trains and ferries to link up seamlessly. With more choices and better connections, the new 18 Metro network will provide frequent bus services running into suburban transport hubs. From there, rapid services will feed in and out of the central city and to other major destinations. And it's not all about getting to and from work either. It's about joining the dots for our everyday lives, for schools, sports, weekends, and getting together with family. That's why we need a range of solutions. Like developing an exciting light rail network to extend our reach. And of course, increased frequency will allow us to just turn up and ride. And with investment in smart, safe infrastructure like this right now, there'll be more choices for commuters than ever before. Woohoo! Here in Britomart Station, everything comes to a dead end. But once the trains carry on through in both directions, there'll be twice as many. With the City Rail link and other changes, our transport network will be more connected. Travel times will tumble, and commuting for everyone will be easier than ever. Of course, new technology will make it easier to pay, keep us on time, and better informed. But it's not all about trains, buses, light rail and bikes. We're a coastal city, so is there a finer way to travel than this? And with another million Aucklanders on our doorstep, we're going to need a bigger boat or two. To create a truly livable city, we need long-term solutions, not just quick fixes. We're also developing a far better way to pay for your journey from one end to the other, including transfers, all using your AT Hop card. Easy. Around 31,000 more people a year will be settling in Auckland, ready or not. So when it comes to transport, we need to be ready.
So hopefully that gives you a good understanding of sort of what's going on in Auckland. I think when I was in Britomart Station, one of the projects there, which was City Rail Link, which we've gone about, it's a transformational project. I've left that to the very end of this presentation. It's a bit like a mini Crossrail. Obviously a lot smaller because it's not London. So the project I'll cover today is what Ollie said, was completing the Western Ring Route. This is a New Zealand Transport Agency project. That's been split up into several packages, you can see there. The biggest one is one called Waterview Tunnels, which is, I need to convert it into euro, it's probably €900 million project. The two-bore tunnel of the biggest in Australasia, so in Australia and New Zealand. I think that's going to be eclipsed very soon because of the tunnel that we're doing in Sydney, which will probably beat that. And then to do with the actual Western Ring Route, to actually, because we say they're complete the Western Ring Route, it's actually these two projects down here which are actually going to complete the Western Ring Route. And I'll take you through those projects, and then I'll finish off with an Auckland Transport project, which is a City Rail Link. So for fairly significant projects, I think completing the Western Ring Route in total was 2.4 billion New Zealand dollars, which is just under 2 billion euro. Probably 200 million euro, 500 million euro, and that's probably that's probably 2.5 billion euro. So these are all massive projects. So Western Ring Route, a little bit of history here. So just give you a bit of context. So what we're doing. So you can sort of see where the TBD is, and in the video you sort of see how they're going to connect it all up. What sort of happened is, in this area here, you've got the northern motorway, the southern motorway, and the northwestern motorway all converge into what they call the CMJ, the Central Motorway Junction, and then you've got the Auckland Harbour Bridge just there. This, during peak hours, is absolutely stuffed. So I think it was actually conceived back in the 1920s, and this is going back to where you invest and where you put your money. So the actual idea of the route came about, maybe 90 to 100 years ago, and they only actually started constructing in 1983. And that section was actually this section here, which connects with Auckland Airport down here. So just this section here, and they've just put a bit of a time bomb underneath it, and they've started constructing. So they finished constructing the Upper Harbour Bridge, which is up there, in 2006. Mount Roskill extension, which is actually through here, in 2009. Manukau Harbour, which was widening the current bridge that was built in 83, in 2010, and Greenhides up here. Hobsonville, which we did the Aurocon did the detailed design for in 2011, and then the Manukau extension, which is this section down here, is connected to what is State Highway 1, so the southern motorway. When they connected that, and I'll go into detail a little bit further about what happened when they connected that, but they connected it with the existing motorway, and it came to a standstill because they didn't think about what the impact was when they would connect a brand new motorway to an existing motorway, and it didn't actually provide enough capacity on the southern motorway. So a bit of a sort of context there, and what we're talking about is this section in here. It's actually the Western Ring. This was an existing motorway which needed to be widened, which is the northwestern, and there's several packages along there to widen it to take the increased traffic using the Western Ring Route. This is where Waterview Tunnels is. So at the moment there's no connection from State Highway 20 onto State Highway 16, so the southwestern to the northwestern, there's no connection between the two. That's due to open in March next year, and that's what we're talking about right now. So, back in 2000, I joined Aurecon when I moved to New Zealand. My company had just recently won this project. So that was a Northwestern motorway, and another company was progressing with the Waterview Tunnels project. And around about 2009, end of 2009, they said, you guys and you guys, you need to join forces to push this forward and accelerate it to get it through and to be built. And they put it through an Environmental Protection Agency process, which fast tracks it through the consenting. And yeah, it de-risks the project, so you can't get any appeals or landowners saying this is the wrong project. It tries to bring all the evidence to one hearing and try and resolve everything as part of that hearing. The other two projects, so you can sort of see the blue line there, and that line, so that was what was called the Waterview Connection, and the whole project there, including those two projects, which on the back end here, they were called the project was called Completing the Western Ring Route. So this consenting package here, which is consented all as one, which is approximately about $2 billion New Zealand dollars worth of work, was consented all together and then packaged up to be procured and constructed separately under different physical works contracts. Hopefully that makes sense. So there you go. These are the different packages. So there's a package down here which was being designed prior to me actually arriving in New Zealand. There's the Waterview Tunnels, which was a separate package, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packages all the way along the State Highway 16, the Northwestern motorway, which is widening the existing motorway. There's a few interesting facts about certain parts of this, particularly this area here, which is the Causeway, which gets inundated with high tides, and it also goes through a national marine reserve. We're trying to build something in something which is protected. So that gives you a bit of context for the Western Ring Route, and then Waterview Tunnels as well. So I'll just show you another video. Again, put the times up there. So I'll probably have to narrate this one because I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any music to this. There was music to it, but then they decided to take it off. So it's just going to show where it is in context with Auckland. For some reason, when they were sort of advertising the need for the Waterview Tunnels, it was all about getting to the airport, to the CBD in the quickest time possible, rather than trying to redirect traffic around the CBD. And originally, the connection with the CBD ramps wasn't in the project. They put those ramps in at the very last minute. So now, at the moment, to get from the airport to the CBD, you basically have to go down some local roads to get into the city. A nice visualization. So you're coming up to the the southern portal. The actual project starts here. Going towards the southern portal, nice architectural bridge, Hendon Bridge, then dives into the portal and then into the tunnels. So one of the main reasons for the project was to miss a supermarket, because it would be too expensive to buy the supermarket. So you'll see it come up now. Australia's largest road tunnel. I believe the West Connect in Sydney is going to trump that though, which is currently being designed. the way my wife works. Funnily enough. It comes, you see one of the stacks there, so it comes out in the northern portal. And then you'll see the ramp connections with the existing motorway. So I've got a few photographs of where this is currently at and what it looked like probably a few years ago. And I'll show you the second video, which has got sound, which is actually because the tunnels have actually finished construction. They've got a little video. So the tunnel boring machine is called Alice. I think you have to name a TBM after a lady. So down the rabbit hole, Alice. So Alice finished her journey in October last year. So they're currently fitting out the tunnels with all the M&E, the ventilation, the deluge system. They're hoping to get it open by Christmas this year, but they're saying to the public at the moment March next year. So Aurecon are not actually, we've gone on there about alliance. Aurecon are not actually part of the alliance, we're the client's advisor. So just go through a few facts of what Aurecon provided to the client. So we helped get it consented in 2011. We then consented, and the final parts of the consenting process and the procurement were undertaken in parallel, and we awarded the contract in 2011. Now, the procurement process was an alliance. I don't know if you have alliances here, but it's where you sort of get a contractor and a designer on board, and they're allianced with the client as part of the team. But because this is a project of such importance to the agency, and they didn't really know how to construct and maintain and operate tunnels. They leaned upon us to then give them advice in what to do. So certain advice that we gave them was to look at, as part of the contract, actually put in a maintenance and operation clause in there for 10 years after construction, so that they can it's really to ensure that they're getting a good quality product that doesn't cost a lot of money to maintain and operate. We managed this, so we came up with the specimen design. So our competitor, they decided to try and go for the alliance process with a contractor, and the transport agency came to Aurecon and said, please can you fulfill this role for us? And we said, so we ended up taking the design that was going through the consenting, came up with what was called a specimen design and the requirements for the contract, then helped manage the tender process, which was a competitive alliance, and then we evaluated it. What we found is when we picked up the design from our competitors, we actually went through a value engineering process, and we actually found that we could reduce the tunnel cross section by looking at international requirements, and we looked at the fire size as well. So we reduced the fire size from 200 megawatts to 50 megawatts. So pretty much from a petrol tanker, we said no tank, petrol tankers going through it. What we actually found during the specimen design, we actually saved 200 million New Zealand dollars. And then we went through the tender process, because we put some really stringent requirements into the contract. We actually got a savings through the competitive tender process of another 200 million. So it was actually supposed to be a $1.8 million project, New Zealand dollars, and we actually came out to be 1.4 billion. So contract was awarded in late 2011, construction started in 2012, and expecting traffic to run through in March 17. And we provided what is called an owner's verifier role. So we inspected the construction, went through design checks for the detailed design, just to ensure that they met the requirements. So just on the tunnel construction, first bore was completed just under a year, and then the second bore took around about 10 months. So they obviously learnt, and it took, to turn the TBM around, so when it got to the northern portal, they had to spin it round and drive back to the southern portal. That took approximately about 4 months to do that. So they had to disassemble the TBM and then spin it around and then drive it back through, which I think is a world first, is what I've been told. This is just some of the aerial photographs that I think these ones are actually really recent. I think these are taken from June, which is this month, so early June. This is of the southern portal, so going as the video flew. So you can see they're making good progress on the tunnel stack and the building within the portal. And there's the northern portal at the moment. So you can see the ramps there. Nearly finished construction. I think they've actually finished construction of the bridges pretty much now. And this one is sort of a before and after, so that was taken in 2014, and that's from June this year. So some people think it's a monstrosity, but engineers are quite excited about this. Just going to flick through the other projects now, just to give you an understanding. You need to prepare the existing infrastructure for this additional traffic, because when you connect, when Waterview connection opens. What's actually going to happen, nobody knows. Traffic modelling can't really, it's just a prediction, it's just a complete guess. So the transport agency at the moment are really worried about, once this opens, it's going to change how people travel around Auckland. And they've got several traffic models currently running, and they're going, this area is going to be a problem, can we do something in the next 6 months where we can not make it a problem? Because there's that reputational risk. Opening something that costs this amount of money for such a small country as New Zealand, and then it doesn't work, it's not a good look. So they're currently running those models at the moment, but I'll show you what they're trying to do on the existing motorway, so which is in the other 5 packages. So St Luke's, which is the one closest to the CBD, Again, that was consented as part of the overall project. It's a traditional procurement process, so we did the detailed design and then got it tendered. So we produced the construction drawings, got a contractor on board. So we did that in 2013. We awarded the contract in November, and its practical completion is going to be this September. And we're providing some construction supervision on site. This is what it currently looks like, is that in there. You can see the CBD in the background. So we basically duplicate the bridge and the widening the motorway to take additional traffic into the CBD. Causeway, which is an interesting project where me and Ali worked on this project for probably a good 3 to 4 years. As I said at the beginning, climate change and sea level rise played a big part in our design requirements for this. The motorway, which is a main arterial road into the CBD, in certain weather events, it actually gets inundated, as you can see there, closes the motorway, and it's not just a case of the sea, sea retreats, and then you can open up the motorway. There's actually a lot of debris that you need to go and clean up. It takes a long time to reopen the motorway. And as you can see, some people actually then canoe along the motorway. So there's a lot of work that we did to start looking at what are the predictions for sea level rise, low, medium, high. How much money does the client have to spend, and then trying to get that better, get that balance and best value for money. So again, considered part of the Westem, the Waterview connection. Going across on that causeway through the marine reserve, it's going through some quite soft ground conditions. So long-term settlement is an issue, and we studied many different ground improvements to look at which one would be the best one. We took that into the competitive tender process through the Alliance. So, and we did the specimen design and tender management. Because we wanted the contractor to come and bring some innovation to the project, we allowed the minimum requirements in the contract for them to then challenge some of the things that were in the specimen design. So in the specimen design, we had soil mixed corn, so basically cement and the soil mixed together, which we thought was the best value for the client, but the winning alliance actually decided to put in wick drains, and I think they ended up saving $80 million. But there was a residual risk there that because the wick drains you have to preload the area. That solution actually has a lot of risk associated with it because of the timing with getting rid of that settlement. Provided in our specimen design a symmetrical widening, whereas the Alliance came along and provided asymmetrical widening. But that then provided value to the client because I think they saved in the region of about $80 million on that project. Again, contract was awarded in early 2013. Practical completion December, which is really tight when you think about you're going to be opening up the tunnels. And that's one of the risks because of the time with the wick drains to get rid of the settlement. That's one of the risks. There's a contingency plan in place that if they can't complete the actual project, they'll just open up half the project to then release the traffic out of the tunnel. So as you can see there, that's the original causeway as it looked before. That photograph down there is then installing the wick drains on the area that the widening, which was then preloaded by around about a metre and a half, I believe. Theatre 2, which is this small interchange here. That was design and construct. Again, consented as part of the overall Waterview connection project. Again, we did the specimen design, did the tender management. Contract was awarded in October 2013 and it was actually opened a couple of months ago. You put the final surfacing on. And that's the final interchange layout. Can't really see that, it's not a great resolution. Lincoln Road, so this project wasn't part of the Waterview connection project. So Here, I think it was in the time period where there was the global financial crisis, and the New Zealand government wanted to start injecting some money into the local industry. So they decided to speed that up. They'd choose early contractor involvement, and they then started to award the construction packages in certain stages, which was gradually over a 5-year period. End up costing $138 million. I don't think that was the best use of the government's money, but got something built from it. And again, that was opened in May 2016. Showing some of the photographs there, some of the construction of a new bridge over an estuary, a new interchange, and actually demolished the existing bridge. Final one, which is linked to Westgate. They were unsure of when they were going to undertake the work on this project, because it's so far away from the tunnel. And again, the traffic modelling, it's complete unknown, but some of the traffic models were saying you could actually get queues going back into the tunnel, even though it's maybe 8 kilometres away from the tunnel. It's a safety hazard, having standing traffic in the tunnel. What they've actually done, they've actually completed the detailed design, so it's gone traditional procurement. It actually, hopefully, whilst they've been away, it should have been awarded to a contractor, and it's due to be completed in Feb in 2019. So that's after Waterview Tunnels is opened. I think as part of that project, I haven't been too involved in this, because I'll go through some of the projects I have. What they'll do is they'll have a separable portion where they'll open up the traffic lanes going away from the tunnel first, so that if there is a problem with traffic queuing back into the tunnel, they can hopefully get that traffic away as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's completing the Western Ring Route, and Ali wanted me to really concentrate on that. They've probably flown through it. There's all different little stories within that project. But we decided to pick off 2 projects that we've recently won and are delivering and have delivered. So Southern Corridor improvement. So recently I mentioned within the beginning this project down here, which is Manukau Extension, which was opened in 2011. And when they opened that, they were basically putting 2 lanes into 3 lanes, which then went into 2 lanes, which is just off the map. And when they opened it up, it came to a complete standstill. The project that we're talking about here is a project to sort out those problems. So Aurocon competitively bid for this work, and because of all the work we did on completing the Western Ring Route, we could put a really solid bid together, knowing exactly what the client wants. We've done it before, they can trust us. So we were commissioned back in March 2014, and this was what they called accelerated projects. So we had to get this delivered by, or a certain portion of the works, by the time the tunnels opened. And the tunnels were at the furthest end of the Western Ring Route. Southern Corridor improvements is at the furthest end of the Western Ring Route. Once the tunnels opened, you're expecting quite a lot of increase in traffic trying to join State Highway 1 in Southern Auckland. So they wanted us to look at how we can then open up certain parts of the project before the tunnel opens. So we actually had to do a detailed business case. We completed that in probably 4 months after we were awarded. And what we did is we really shrunk the design and kept it within the existing designations to really reduce the property take and reduce the risk, just to really get it accelerated. We consented we lodged all the consents in November of that year to only the directly affected parties, again reducing those risks. And we approved it, we gained the approvals in July last year. At the same time, we actually went out to tender with the D&C, and we awarded that a month after we gained the consents to build the project. So from being commissioned and then awarding the contract for getting it constructed, it was 17 months. It's probably why I've got a lot of grey hair right now. It's due to be completed in October 2018, and with opening a certain portion of the job in the same sort of time when the tunnels is going to open. So I think you've got some photographs. They've only just started construction, so you can sort of see one of the ramps there that they're trying to get open by the time that the tunnel opens, just to relieve the congestion coming through this area of the network. We also had a design competition for a architectural footbridge. That was the winning design, which wasn't the actual contractor that won the job, and we told them to build that bridge there. And there's a bit of regeneration down there where we're taking some of the land that's used for maintenance and actually providing a park and getting the local community to connect with their local harbour as well. Which is pretty impressive. So we completed that work in August last year, and then this job up here came out to tender. So we went from completing this work, getting it out to contractor, went down to sort out the stuff down here, and now we're looking at how to connect the northern end of the Western Ring Route into State Highway 1. Now, we only got awarded this job in March this year, and we're currently doing some public consultation. So I think the public consultation was the weekend I flew out of New Zealand. So we're looking at connecting the top of the Western Ring Route with State Highway 1, but also at the same time there's an actual busway, which an existing busway which stops at a place called Constellation Station, and from there we're going to extend that busway all the way through to an existing station called Albany, it's called, and then we're going to provide an additional bus station somewhere here as well. There's a national hockey centre which actually is going to be affected by this, and we're just trying to look at whether we relocate or reconfigure those hockey facilities. We're still going through the design at the moment, and we're looking to lodge, again it's going to go through an EPA Board of Inquiry process, but we're looking to lodge that in November this year, and start the tender process again with the competitive alliance next year to get it awarded late next year, with construction due to be completed in December 2021, which is a date which has been given to the government, which we can't fail on. So again, it's after Waterview connection, the Waterview Tunnels is complete, and we're looking at staging that construction to try and minimise the traffic effects or the effect on the local and the motorway network. Okay, so City Rail Link. So those were all New Zealand Transport Agency projects, quite sizable sums of money. At the same time, we were asked to bid for this work, providing the similar sort of role for Auckland Transport as an advisor. This is Waterview Connection was the biggest transport infrastructure project in New Zealand history. City Rail Link is going to trump that one. I've got a few videos to show you. Again, they're only about 1 or 2 minutes long, but the project is quite a transformational project. As you saw in the first video, the current rail network comes to a dead end in Britomart Station. What's going to happen is going to drive through that train infrastructure through the centre of the city. They're going to do it through a few different methods of tunnelling. One's cut and cover, top down, TBM, mine stations. So it's got a sort of a similar feel, but smaller project than Crossrail. So we've gone through the consenting process and the land process, which is what we call in New Zealand notice of requirement. So put the designation through the city. We then put our resource consents in, so to gain the relevant approvals to go and build the project. So that was approved last year. They've awarded 2 physical works contracts through the ECI process, and Aurocon were commissioned as part of our advisor role to do the detailed design for both of those packages. Construction is just about to start. They've closed down a shopping centre which needs to be demolished right near down near the port. So that's been closed now, and they're starting to go through and demolish that. So for those early works, what they're calling enabling works, not actually enabling works, actually the part of the project. For the rest of the project, we've actually lodged the consents, building approvals for that in May, and a hearing is planned in a few months' time, I believe. Procurement is currently being decided. how they're going to do it. I believe they're going to go with 3 different methods. One's ETI for the actual fit out of the tunnels. Another is D&C for the actual civil works for the stations and the tunnels. And then where they connect it in with the existing rail line, they're going to be using an alliance. And the reason for the alliance is they're going to be working in ground conditions, which is from the lava flows from one of the volcanoes, which is basalt, hard to excavate, and they've got to try and get the rail works completed in time for it to open by a certain time. So they decided to go with an alliance there because there needs to be a lot of risk sharing in that project. So I believe, so I've got 4 videos for this, and they're all quite short, but it'll give you a good idea of what the project's all about.
The City Rail is the heart of Auckland's transport system, connecting the city centre to the rest of Auckland. Now trains heading into Britomart hit a dead end. By pushing through underground at Britomart and connecting the rail network, trains will be able to run both ways. This will double the number of trains that can run, delivering a train about every 5 to 10 minutes at peak from most stations. With 2 new underground stations near Aotea and Karangahape Road and a redeveloped station at Mount Eden, travel will be faster with better access to more parts of the city centre and further afield. Taking a train from Newland to the new Aotea station will take only about 20 minutes. That's almost half an hour saved compared to now. This will mean the number of people within 30 minutes train travel of a city centre station will double, which is great for business and employment. There'll be greater connectivity for the wider Auckland region too. For example, a trip from Otahuhu to K Road would be more direct, taking only 27 minutes. With Auckland's population growing by about 700,000 people in less than 30 years, public transport needs to become a reliable and effective transport choice. With the dead end at Britomart, rail can carry only 15,000 passengers an hour. With the CRL, rail can carry about 30,000 people an hour in peak. Compare that to a single motorway lane carrying just 2,400. More people on trains will free up roads for those who need them. The City Rail Link will also make it possible to expand the rail network to the North Shore via Wynyard Quarter and to the airport. The new City Rail Link, the heart of Auckland's transport system. AT, connecting Aucklanders.
So some of the other videos will show in a little bit more detail of what's actually going to be built. So this is a good one. So you can see the CBD, and because CRL's come along, and I said it's a transformational project, there's all these skyscrapers that are currently have just started to be built. You see the Sky Tower there. This is where one of the stations is going to be built, but that's part of a future package. And the enabling works, or the early works, is this cut and cover tunnel down Albert Street. And goes in underneath. This is where the shopping centre is, which is currently being demolished. It's just there. So that's Britomart Station just there. And then I'll show you this, which hasn't been given to anybody apart from the tendering parties. So this is something that we came up with, let's say BIM, using digital. All of the stuff that we've designed has been in 3D. So that's Britomart Station, and this is how we plan to put the tunnels through underneath Britomart Station. So the Britomart Station is actually called the Central Post Office. It's a heritage building, and we're going to be putting 2 rail tunnels underneath it. So it's very high risk. We had to show the contractors how we intended to do it, and they could come with their solutions, and we could talk to them during the tender process about how we would minimise that risk. So it'll go into the station. It'll probably show how the rail lines are going to be driven through. There you go. It'll show how we're going to miss foundations for some of the buildings within the existing CBD and the services as well. And I think the final video is, so we saw in one of the videos something about a redevelopment of Mount Eden Station. So what we did there, well, the project
The
was
City Rail Link will be the heart of Auckland's transport system, connecting the city centre to the rest of Auckland. Auckland Transport has changed the design of the City Rail Link, replacing Newton Station with a redeveloped Mount Eden Station. The change will improve rail reliability and reduce construction disruption, while also saving over $150 million. The change has come from design work, which has challenged the initial concept and is continuing to refine the project. In the previous concept design, the City Rail Link bypassed Mount Eden Station, stopping at Newton Station 42 metres below the ground. Heritage buildings limited the potential for development around the Newton site, and there was a flat train junction where the lines crossed to head east and west. With the new design, an additional platform will be added at Mount Eden to connect people to the City Rail Link, and the separated train junction will improve the reliability of the entire rail network. The new platform will be in a trench, similar to New Lynn, with a station building connecting the platforms. Strong walking connections between the redeveloped Mount Eden Station and Simon Street will be enhanced. There will also be greater opportunity for development around Mount Eden Station, with fewer heritage buildings, fewer view shaft restrictions, and the redevelopment of the adjacent construction site after the CRL is operational. Overall, the changes will make the CRL more affordable, more reliable, and less disruptive during construction. City Rail Link, the heart of Auckland's transport system. AT, connecting Aucklanders.
So CRL is a huge project for such a small city, and it's really around the affordability. And one of the things that we did for Auckland Transport was really to look at and challenge some of the high level decisions that were made at an early stage around where the stations were and where we can actually get some savings. So I think 150 to 200 million was roughly what we saved by rethinking that outcome. It doesn't just stop there. No, we're not going to show this video because it's quite long. I think I'm out of time, probably run over. But it doesn't stop there. There's a lot of projects still going on in Auckland which Aurocon doesn't have any involvement with at the moment. So light rail, they're looking at putting trams, as you saw in the first video, and then extending it to the airport and up towards the North Shore. We're currently working, I think, with Auckland Transport on the extension onto the North Shore and converting that busway, as I showed in the Northern Corridor, to a tram network. With the Transport Agency, they're looking at actually providing a new tunnel underneath the harbour to replace the bridge, which would be probably one of the biggest road tunnels in the world. And they're currently looking at connecting parts of the Western Ring Route to State Highway 1, which is a project called East West Connections. So there's quite a lot of opportunities in Auckland. There's quite a lot of work. We're probably talking, that project there in itself is probably $5 billion New Zealand dollars worth of work. So it doesn't stop with the process I've just shown you. There's many more to come. So there is a big impetus in getting that infrastructure from where it is to something which will make it the most livable city. So I think that's it. And I think I've probably done a whole hour now. So apologies for taking up so much time.
Thanks, Andrew. You just brought me back a couple of years. It's been 15 years since I've been to Auckland, and I remember walking into that Bismarck building, is that the right?
Yeah,
the right-
Bismarck.
The Bismarck building, and good luck with that project. But it was the time around the America's Cup, and vaguely a lot of the stuff which you've shown me just brings back fond memories of visiting your city.
Yeah.
But I suppose most of the audience here would be very familiar with the issues which Auckland is experiencing at the moment, and there's an awful lot of similarities with what Dublin has gone through in the last 15 to 20 years. So I'll just open it out to the floor to see if anybody has any interesting questions for Andrew. Donald is going to...
I suppose
Do you want to stand
you
here?
covered so much ground there in terms of
Yeah.
phenomenal presentation, but even just the latter part of the presentation, you talked about the city rail link and the massive impact it was going to have, and how it was at Britomart then stop turning into both directions and even doubling the capacity. I'm just conscious that I'm aware of in Melbourne to have this 50 level crossings project that's like 50 Newlands crosses, and it's worth like $6 billion. And it just occurred to me that, you know, when you're programming in or the development of such an ambitious project, does that in turn trigger the need for multiple level crossings that need to be addressed in Auckland, and a consequence of that, because there's double the amount of traffic through it, they become less functional, etc., and more disruptive.
I think that's it's been highlighted on the risk register that there'll be many other projects which come off the back of City Rail Link. So they know they have to grade separate a lot of the level crossings that are out there. Most road rail intersections are level crossings, and if you're going to double capacity, more trains, level crossing is going to be down, more inefficiency. I believe, from what I've been told, that project will probably be of a similar number to the actual City Rail Link to grade separate all those level crossings. Yeah, because Auckland in certain areas is pretty flat. To grade separate, you need to either go under or over. You need to take land. Property prices in Auckland is quite expensive. Yeah, so that's a number that's being thrown around at the moment. But I don't think they've done enough work to actually rubber stamp and say that's what we need to provide to do that work. Yeah.
Just a quick question for me, Andy. It's regarding Lincoln Road and the ECI.
Yeah.
I know you gave us a budget, and I know my own experience on the project that it didn't go as well as it probably could have. Can you just expand a little bit on ECI and how it compared to the other procurement models? Maybe it didn't succeed.
It would probably need to be a personal opinion. So I think the New Zealand Transport Agency probably chose the wrong contract. For not necessarily early contractor involvement, but the actual process that they went through to engage the contractor, and then the milestones that had to be met to then get them awarded a physical works or construction contract. That process wasn't followed properly. The way that the risk was shared between the contractor and the client wasn't a true ECI. I believe they should have gone for more an open book approach. They tried to say to the contractor, you take up on all the risk, and therefore the contractor would have priced in the risk, and that's why they would have got a cost blowout. So I believe the original budget that the client had was roughly around about 100 million New Zealand dollars. And they finished the project with 138, and they didn't build the full project. They only probably built 70-75% of the project. That 25 to 30% of the project is now being rolled into the Link to Westgate project. So it's going to be currently built start to be constructed probably in the next 6 months. Yeah.
Any further questions?
Yeah, just one more. It just strikes me that maybe akin to what was going on in Ireland 10 years ago, that a phenomenal amount of money has been spent over a short period of time, or been made available for expenditure over a short period of time in Auckland. And like here, does New Zealand suffer in terms of the availability of, I suppose, at the highest level of contractors, but as you trickle down, tradesmen, skills, skilled labour, were the bodies available to actually implement work when time came and tenders were issued, or was there a problem with inflation, etc.?
I think that problem is about to eventuate. So with all the jobs that are currently being tendered or being awarded, particularly City Rail Link, there's the East-West connections, there's Northern Corridor, with all these projects going on in parallel with one another, and then plus the construction of those high-rise tower blocks in the city, there is going to be a crunch on the construction sector, and I think we will then start to see inflation. So we will start to see, I think historically New Zealand, it's been quite a competitive market because the work there hasn't been that on such a large scale. Now all of a sudden they've got all these massive major projects all going along in the same time frame. I think contractors are going to be being able to probably, I won't say name the price, but they're going to be so busy that they're not going to tender for projects because why would they? So yeah, I think that is probably within the next 6 to 12 months, and you can see the market at the moment, particularly the recruitment market. And I know people within our organisation, including myself, which are starting to be headhunted. So yeah, it is going to be a problem. But all of these projects aren't on site at the moment. They're just starting off. So I think 12 months time there's going to be a bit of a crunch.
Hopefully we'll have that problem in a few years' time.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I'm not saying it's a bad problem, but yeah.
Declan, you had a question?
Thank you very much. Overview. You were concentrating there on the commissioning of schemes.
Yeah.
Just go back a little, if I may ask a question, you may not know the answer. On the design and planning process, you talked about the model.
Yeah.
It appeared to me that one basic premise being taken was that the technology would not change within the next 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
And I think on highways with automatic vehicles, and particularly Uber, I think there's going to be a dramatic change in vehicle occupancy and the number of vehicles per hour that can use per lane.
Yeah.
And if you're using 2,500 now, for 20 years from now, it may not be a true base.
Exactly.
Has this been built into your risk analysis?
No. So that's one of the things that, traffic modelling in my mind is a bit of a dark art. You can never get it right, and when you do get a number that you can have some confidence on, the next day it's completely different because your planning restrictions have all been changed, and all of a sudden your traffic flows are all different. I like to go with a bit of a, does it feel right? Does it sound right? I think with the projects that we've currently gone through in the last 8 years, I think the design years we've actually used for them is upon opening. It's not actually 20 years into the future. So it's actually going to be congested from day one, which isn't a great look. What the transport agency particularly has been looking at is the Google, the driverless vehicles, but that hasn't been then put into the traffic modelling because I don't think the models are there yet to start predicting those type of things. One thing that they have started to look at is the ITS and the managed lanes, which you probably get in the UK, where they open up shoulders and have the variable speed limits. They were looking at that as part of the Waterview connection to try and open up those shoulders for when the tunnel opens. But there wasn't enough time to actually implement something like that because you'd have to change the legislation. And we've only got 9 months until opening. I think they started talking about it probably a year and a half ago, and that's it's not long enough to change that legislation to make it happen. But it is probably going to come along. I mean, New Zealand's always probably 5 or 10 years behind the rest of the world, to be honest. So, yeah.
Okay. We'll draw a conclusion to the questions. Just to thank Andrew for coming over this evening, taking time out of his free time to come and tell us about Auckland. To thank Ali for organising this. Very big thanks to Ali for that. And then finally, just to ask Donal for the vote of thanks.
I suppose in fairness, I think we're all very impressed with tonight's presentation. It's always, it's very familiar because of the comparability of Dublin with Auckland and the issues and the problems, and perhaps Becky will be more versed on this than I, but I mean, in ways the evolution of the ring road struck me as being in parallel with our own M50 and the construction of the Western Parkway back in the late 80s, I think that's right.
Starting in the late 60s.
Yeah, and then the Western link section that was built, and then for many years after that, there was fundamental sections of the M50 or Pfizer Ring Road around the city that weren't there, and we all know how badly we paid for it in terms of our own travel time and our economic efficiency and competitiveness as a nation. So I found the presentation really interesting, and then I mean you covered so much an array of expenditure on various roads projects that at this moment in time in this country we can only aspire to, and I suppose what I'll say as engineers are looking forward that hopefully we'll end up getting into a mode of recovery and be able to kind of engage with for example, the completion of our M50 and the Eastern Bypass and other more ambitious projects out there. No, I think in fairness, an excellent presentation. Great to see the road and the rail. I think we've seen more and more of that as an emerging trend. But I think as engineers, you can see it from the far side of the world. We're all starting to think the same.
Yeah.
We're thinking of the multi-modes of
Yeah.
transport and working with transportation solutions. So I think on behalf of the Roads and Transport Society of Engineers Ireland, I'd like to thank you very much for attendance and taking time out of your vacation schedule over here, and you're travelling off again tomorrow for a wedding, and hopefully this was a nice kind of bit of practice for the best speech you're going to give for your brother's wedding.
I'm hoping so.
So just call upon the attendees here just to